Hi, everybody. Welcome to this first session on From Thesis to Book. We are going to take the first steps to taking your academic research and turning it into a book. In the video recording that you saw before this, I went through the steps of how to make that first initial translation, how to do the bar stool test, where you take what you've studied and make it interesting for your friends who may not be academics, but they're smart and they like to learn about new things. Then I showed you exactly how to upload that research to Amazon. We're going to do a couple of things here. First, I'm going to add a little bit of information that will help out that process. I told you that you need to follow the bar stool test to make your research interesting, but I'm going to give you some more specific methods on how to engage in the popular book writing process. It's different from academia, and when I started writing popular books, it took a little while for me to make this transition. I had to cobble together my own method based on what I read from famous writers in history, and I want to share that method with you so there won't be any problems in writing your book. Oddly enough, this method of writing popular nonfiction actually helped me be a much faster writer when it came to academic literature. This is what helped me write my dissertation much faster. So that's what you will learn. First, you will learn how to write every single day, 5 times a week. This sounds like a burden. This sounds like something that could eat into your schedule. But once I go through the method, I promise that it will not look nearly so onerous, and it might actually be sort of fun to get into a good writing groove. The second thing I'm going to do is show you how to launch your book to #1 in your Amazon category. You might wonder, well, why does this matter? Yeah, I want to sell books, but why does it matter to make such a big launch, beyond the obvious of making more income by selling more books? Here's why. We're going to be talking about other things in this training, like how to create an audiobook based on your Kindle book, how to get your book translated into foreign languages, how to create a print-on-demand book, how to make a course based off of your ebook. Well, all of these things that follow are predicated on your ebook selling well. To get people to work with you to create those foreign language translations, to create that audiobook, you need to have a book that sells well, that's a proven winner. So we need to know how to launch a book. That's why we're going to focus on this. Now let's jump in for part 1 and look at how to write every day, and beyond just writing every day, how to write quickly, how to write effectively, and how to write a good, popular book and translate your academic research into something that just about anybody would want to read. Let me describe this not just by laying out some methods, but by telling you my story. I am a PhD in history, and a couple years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was right in the thick of my research, and I hit a terrible case of writer's block. I finished my qualification exams in 2011, and I was preparing for the research stage of my dissertation, which is in Ottoman history. Ottoman history is a really weird field because the Ottoman Empire had lots of ethnic groups and languages in it, so you have to study a lot of different languages to be competent in the field. Modern Turkish, Ottoman Turkish, depending on which province you're looking at, Arabic or Bulgarian or Greek. So I took a lot of different language courses in 2012. And from 2012 to 2013, I went to conferences, and I did those good academic things like write book reviews and all that. But I did almost no writing. Here's why. I did almost no writing because I had this idea that in order to start writing my dissertation, I had to get every single original source under the sun. I had to go through thousands of pages of original research. I had to read it all. I had to digest it mentally. And then once I had perfect competency of every single thing I read, and I could observe the whole universe of information and see how all the pieces fit together, then I could start writing and start to spit out perfect sentences one by one, and the muse would sit on my shoulder and it would all come out perfectly. Here's why that didn't work. I was trapped in a mental boardroom. There's a picture from Mad Men. I guess I like to think of myself as Don Draper. But anyway, here's what I mean by being trapped in a mental boardroom. When I would actually sit down at my computer to write, I imagined that I was in a PhD seminar where One or two of my professors are there. Some of the other people in my PhD program were there. And like any good seminar, you're deli slicing very thin each idea that comes out. I say something, I mention this author to make sense of this historical fact that happened. Then other people will come in and say, oh, but you forgot about this person's research. Oh, but what about this other historical event? And every tiny little thing that you say is scrutinized, questioned. Somebody else comes in with an alternative viewpoint. So you have to be very, very specific and clear with your words. And as you say anything, you have to juggle multiple other viewpoints in your mind as you say it so that you don't leave something out. It's very hard to make an airtight argument. Well, that's good for being academically clear in your speaking or writing. But when you're actually sitting down to write a dissertation, that is very daunting. I imagined as I was at my keyboard mentally that there was this whole boardroom of people who were scrutinizing my every word. I would write a sentence and I could mentally imagine my professors or other PhD students saying, you forgot this, you forgot that. So I would write something, I would delete it, I would try to write something again, I would delete that. So I'd be pecking away at my keyboard, and after a days of work, several hours, maybe there'd be a page, maybe there'd be a paragraph, maybe there'd be a total of 10 pages if I hadn't gone back and deleted it, but it was such a terrible, laborious process. Here's how the logjam finally broke. Now, I told you in a previous video that I've written a number of popular books. Well, I learned something wonderful by famous authors that I'd come across who were known for being prolific. And those two people were Isaac Asimov and Ernest Hemingway. I knew about Asimov because I am an unashamed sci-fi geek, read the whole Foundation series when I was in junior high, don't care who knows it. But here's something interesting about Isaac Asimov. He wrote or edited more than 500 books in his lifetime. Beyond that, he wrote 90,000 letters to fans. His books were published in 9 of the 10 major categories of the Dewey Decimal System. So I thought to myself, Isaac, how did you do this? I can barely produce a paragraph or a page a day, and you're writing basically a book every 2 weeks. These are not little books either. These are 50 or 70,000 words. How on earth did you do this? And Isaac Asimov has a PhD. He understands this. Here's a quote of his that opened the door for me. He said, I made up my mind long ago to follow one cardinal rule in all my writing, to be clear. I have given up all thought of writing poetically or symbolically or experimentally or in any other modes that might, if I were good enough, get me a Pulitzer Prize. I would write merely clearly and in this way establish a warm relationship between myself and my readers. And the professional critics, well, they can do whatever they wish. Hemingway, too, was famous for writing quickly and clearly. I think the first draft of The Old Man and the Sea, I might be mistaken, but it only took him about 2 weeks to write. He, too, favored short, simple sentences, and one of the ways that he would make sure that he had a good daily writing output was to keep track of it. He had a big chart that he kept in his room where he would write down how many words he wrote that day. Sometimes it'd be 450 words, sometimes it'd be 575, sometimes it'd be 462. And he wrote more on other days, so he wouldn't feel guilty if on the next day he had a lower writing output. And if he decided in the afternoon to take off and go hunting or fishing, then it wasn't a problem. So here's what Asimov and Hemingway both did. When they wrote their first draft, they didn't have a mental boardroom of any sort. They told their friends, their professors to just go away, and they sat in their mental boardroom by themselves. So what they did was they just vomited out that first draft. They made it as messy and terrible and stinky as they possibly could. They rushed into it. They never bothered to look back or cross anything out or wonder if the spelling was right or think if there was a logical connection between the previous paragraph and the next paragraph. Now, their first drafts were surprisingly good, but they didn't apologize. They just jumped into it and bit it off and spit it out. And if they couldn't keep up their train of thought, they would just write down, I can't think of it. What they did was they allowed their mind to go freely and they vomited out that first draft. And then after they vomited it out, then they would go back and edit it. Hemingway once said, write drunk, edit sober. Knowing Hemingway, he probably did write drunk, but the point is that there was no mental boardroom. Now, in the second or third revision rounds, yes, there would be a mental boardroom, but the first one, they just vomited that thing out. That's what I did writing popular books, and that's actually a lesson I applied to my thesis, and it accelerated enormously my writing process, and it made it seem much quicker and effortless, and dare I say, even fun. Jerry Seinfeld has a twist on this method. He uses a similar process when it comes to writing jokes. Here's what he said. The way to become a better comic was to create better jokes, and the way to create better jokes was to write every day. He would just make more jokes, and then he'd have more to select from and winnow it down. He didn't try to squeeze his brain to make the perfect joke. He just thought, okay, I'm going to fire off dozens or hundreds of jokes a day, and there has to be some good ones out of that. Like Asimov, he would write a lot, then he would just cull from his massive mountain of material, and there would be a diamond in the rough. But his advice was clear. Jerry Seinfeld's advice was clearer than just make jokes every day. He had a wonderful leveraging technique that he used on himself. And this is something you can use to motivate yourself also, even if you have a day where you just don't feel like writing or you have writer's block and you don't know how to go forward. Here's what Seinfeld used. It's a calendar system to pressure himself to write and make jokes every day. Here's how it works. So he would get a big wall calendar that had the whole year on it and hang it on a prominent wall. The next step was to get a big red marker. So here's what Seinfeld did. He said that every day I would give myself the task of writing, and when I completed my task, I don't know how long he did it every day. Maybe it was an hour, maybe it was 2 hours, maybe it was a certain number of jokes. Once he completed it, he would put a big red X over that day. After a few days, he would have a chain. He would keep this up, and the chain would grow longer every day. When you see that chain growing, it starts to feel really good, especially after you have a few weeks under your belt. And the only job after that is to not break the chain. Now, here's a funny thing. Your brain actually takes over after a certain amount of time, and it likes that chain. And if you're having a bad day and you can't write well, your brain begins to give you little shocks of pain at the very thought of not completing that chain. This is the psychological theory of loss prevention, which means that losing a small thing is more painful than gaining a small thing. So even though the chain on your wall calendar is arbitrary, your brain gives you little sensations of pain by the thought of not completing it. So your brain is actually your friend here in helping you write regularly. That's how Jerry Seinfeld did it. And I cultivated my own method when it came to writing, and I'll show you that in a second. But I have to say, wow, it works. And when I've given other people advice on how to do that for themselves, they got into a rhythm where whether writing academic writing or popular book writing, they could not help but meet a quota every single day. It's funny how these little motivation things actually work. I thought it was gimmicky or cheesy when I first heard it, but then I saw that it worked, and now I am a full-on evangelist. So here's how I did it. I just created a very simple spreadsheet. You can do this on Excel. I like using Google Docs because it's in the cloud, and if my computer crashes, it's still there. But here was the sheet. If you go to the left side of the screen, there's the date, there's the day. Then which chapter did I write in today? You don't need that. I just use it for reference. The next column, words at the beginning of the day, then words at the end of the day. The total number of words. This is for the entire project or for the entire chapter. The column that really matters is the next one, which says total words for the day. That is the key one. My goal was 500 words a day. When I first started, that's at the beginning of my chain in 2013, it would take me maybe 3 or 4 hours to get that 500 words, and I was worried that I wouldn't make it. But after a couple of weeks, it took me a lot less time because I became much better at knowing how to get those words out there. Sometimes those 500 words would just be a footnote. If you're in the humanities, you know how monstrous those footnotes can get, so you understand what I'm talking about. But I would be motivated because I wanted to hit my 500 words, so I'd be happy to go through all the literature I could so I could spit out that big fat footnote. Once I started to get into the groove, after about 2 or 3 weeks, my mood really started to change. Writing wasn't this albatross, it wasn't this black cloud hanging over my head, where I was in my mental boardroom with my professors and I was scared. It became a tangible goal knowing, okay, got my 500 words and I'm just going to go through and spit it out. I felt so much better once it was all done. My brain just released gallons of endorphins into my bloodstream. My writing pace quickened. I was able to produce my first draft of my dissertation after about 5 or 6 months. Okay, yeah, it was messy as all get out, but I was able to edit it after 1.5 months. My advisor was shocked at how fast I was writing, and he only knew about this method after the fact, but it changed everything. And this method I also use with my popular books, and it makes it much easier to just go through. There's a closer view at how I would keep a tally of the words. I would see how many words I had at the beginning of the day, then how many words I had at the end of the day. That's the key thing of this whole spreadsheet. If you have nothing else, just keep a running tally so you can actually see how many words you're writing. As you see the list extend out and you see the days and weeks of progression behind you, you're going to have a new habit form. Here's another thing you can do to help along this process. When I would get to the end of the writing day, I would think, okay, what should I write on tomorrow? And I would leave notes to my future self. I would write in the margin, tomorrow, write about this source, write about this topic, do a summary of this book when you're doing your literature review. That was really helpful because when I would start the next day, I would already have some things in front of me. I would know, okay, I know I'm going to write about these things, and I would have the book in front of me and I could hit the ground running. That's what cut down my writing time from taking 3 or 4 hours a day to put out those 500 words down to about 1 or 2 hours a day because I knew what I was going to do. I even took this a step further, and the night before, I would set up my computer, I would open up my Microsoft Word, I would get my documents ready, then I would just hit sleep on my computer. That way, when I would get up the very first thing in the morning, I would hit on, everything was right there in front of me. I would immediately start tacking my keyboard before even thinking about it, kind of like the equivalent of if you're a swimmer and you want to swim every morning, you just jump into the pool without thinking about it and it will shock you awake. That's how I would do this, so I could get done with my writing pretty early in the day. And the rest of the day, I felt great, like I was walking on clouds, because the thing that was the cloud that was hanging over my head was gone. The sunshine was shining through, and the rest of the day it was like a bonus. Any other thing I did the rest of the day were brownie points. They were extra credit because the big thing was out of the way. So that's something you can do even if you don't have a lot of time in your day. If you're beginning to write as a side, you're already working full time, and you want to write your self-published popular book, if you only have half an hour a day or an hour a day, that's fine. If your total word count can only be 100 or 200 words a day, that's fine. 1 or 200 words a day really accumulates over time. So if you are working full-time, and maybe I would recommend you do this in the morning, get up a little bit earlier and do it before you go to work. Just a little bit of writing will accumulate a lot over time. I want to drill down even more specifically on how to build up this writing habit, because writing consistently is critical over the long term to produce a lot of ebooks. It's not enough to have a writing marathon, but it's important to write regularly. Let me give you the example of Nike Plus. This is a sensor system. It was popular a few years ago before Fitbit took over. It was a little pedometer you would attach to your shoe and sync up with your iPhone or iPod. And what it does is it tracks where you run, it uploads your data, it sees how far you ran, and it keeps just a log of your running route. Well, here's a story I came across that illustrates the power of forming a habit and specifically tells us how long it takes to form an unbreakable habit that will relate to our writing. In 2008, Veronica Noon attached the sensor to her running shoes and headed out for the door, so she pressed start on her iPod and began keeping track of every step she took. She only ran about 1.5 miles in 18 minutes, but it was the start of something really big for her. She ran 95 more times since that day and logged in 280 miles in about 48 hours on the road, and she lost almost 80 pounds. She's one of many stories of people who formed a habit because they saw their data and their data spoke to them. But here's the interesting thing. Nike Plus collected hundreds of thousands of users' data, and here's what they discovered. There's a magic number for Nike Plus users, and Fitbit found the same thing. 5. If someone uploads only a couple of runs to the website, maybe they're just trying it out and they're not going to stick with it. But once people hit 5 runs, they are massively more likely to keep running and uploading their data. After 5 runs, they've gotten hooked on what their data tells them about themselves. So if you can keep track of your daily writing on that spreadsheet 5 times, you are done with your book. You will be able to convert your writing, your academic research, into a popular book, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Just do it 5 times. The habit is set, and you will probably be able to do it as long as you want to. Again, to borrow some writing recommendations from a dissertation, although this can apply to popular writing as well, when you get out that first draft, the idea is first you make a mess, then you clean it up. That comes from writing your dissertation in 15 minutes a day. It means that writing is a process where you discover what you have to say. Ideas don't emerge neatly from people's minds. They can rise up in conversation or the act of describing them, and you need to provide the proper medium for them to emerge. So your writing helps you figure out which ideas and paths are fruitful and which are not. It's important to get that first draft done and then to spend some time going back over it, because converting academic writing into popular writing is kind of a difficult process, and you always have to keep your friends in mind who are at the pub, and remember the barstool test where you're talking with intelligent people who aren't in your field. So it takes a little bit of time to find your voice, but once you're there, it'll be pretty easy to keep cranking out books and to keep this process going. I want to mention one last thing here about writing regularly. I don't want to seem like I'm belaboring the point, but based on my experience, one of the best indicators of someone being successful in being a self-published writer is to write regularly. So I want to mention one more thing here that will help you make sure that you form a long-term habit. That is to get your friends to help you write regularly. How do you do that? How do you get them to help you? By letting them punish you. Okay, what do I mean by that? Let me explain. We're going to get into a little bit of behavioral science and the understanding of loss prevention. If you're a fan of podcasts like Freakonomics that look into behavioral economics, then I think you'll love this. Here's what you have to do. Realize that you are not a rational creature, and you have to work against your future self. According to social psychology, we respond more actively to carrots than sticks. According to the Center for Experimental Social Science at New York University, you work harder to avoid losing $100 than to earn $100. It's not logical, but it's human psychology. So use this fact to your advantage. Use the fact that potential loss is a greater motivator than potential reward to your advantage. Here's what I mean by this. Let's say you have a daily writing quota, whatever it works for you in your schedule, maybe 100 words a day, 200 words, 500 words, or 1,000, 2,000 words, whatever works for you. And if you meet your quota, don't think about rewarding yourself with some fancy dessert. Think about how to give yourself a very small punishment if you don't meet it. This is where you can get your friends involved. Give them access to your writing data spreadsheet where you have your total word tally. Maybe make it a Google Doc where other people can have access to it and see it from their own computer. And find a friend who isn't shy about meting out punishment if you tell them that this is what you want. Tell them that if I don't meet my daily writing quota, maybe you owe them a drink the next time you go out, or a dessert, or you could give them go a step further and say, here's $10, here's $20. And if I do not meet my writing quota, you can donate to a group or a political organization that I hate more than anything else in the world. Give it to them in my name and give them my address so I'm on their mailing list or their email list, and I get messages from them all the time. Something that make your toes curl and you think, oh, I hate that. I hate that group. I hate that organization. That will have a powerful motivator. This idea comes from a book by A.J. Jacobs called Drop Dead Healthy. This is a really funny book. It's about health and weight loss, but it relates to our topic at hand. A.J. Jacobs talked about the difficulty in losing weight and not stop snacking on dried mangoes. He said they have a veneer of being healthy, but they're really just orange-colored sugar. During his health project, he tried several methods of kicking his dried mango habit, but nothing worked. Then he listened to Thomas Schelling, who's a Nobel Prize-winning economist, talking about the now versus future self concept of economics. It means don't trust your future self to do the right thing. That's why you set up a punishment for your future self in case you fail and you get your friends to endorse it. Here's how A.J. Jacobs used this principle. He said to his wife, "If I have another dried mango this month, I want you to donate $1,000 of my money to the American Nazi Party." This is particularly funny since A.J. Jacobs is Jewish. She tried to reason with him, saying, well, why not some shady pharmaceutical company? But he said, no, I don't want it to go to something kind of bad. I want something that will make me sick to my stomach. So he filled out the check, and she wrote it courtesy of A.J. Jacobs, and she would cash it if he failed to live up to his self-imposed ban on dried mangoes. So here's what he said after he filled out the check. "This strategy is one of the most effective I've ever encountered. I haven't eaten a dried mango in 2 weeks. I still open the cabinet and see those slices and get a few drops of Pavlovian saliva. But there's no way I'm going to put one in my mouth. It's like a switch has flipped. I can't even conceive of eating one. The repercussions are too horrible. I'm not going to pay for a bunch of new swastika flags and jacklace boots. It's as if I were dating a woman and discovered she was my long-lost sister. The thought of kissing her repulses." Now, I don't know how you can do that, but give some money, and it doesn't have to be a lot. The point is, it could be as little as $1, but the psychological power still takes hold in our minds. And tell your friend, give this to some organization that I hate, hold me to it if I don't meet my daily writing quota, and you will keep to it. So this is the fuel that gets you going as a self-published writer, to produce word count every single day, and that accumulates into a book. Then that accumulates into another book and another book and another book, and that keeps you going. The key to all this is to have a steady writing habit. So those are a few tools that I mentioned to make sure that you write every day, that you have a spreadsheet, that you keep track of your writing, that you have friends who will punish you. And the reason I mention this is a lot of people say just write every day. And yeah, that's all well and good, but in the beginning, it's hard to keep up that habit. But if you use these tools, you will be able to establish that habit and keep it going for as long as you want. All right, so we talked about how to write every day. Let's get into the nitty-gritty and talk about how to launch your book to #1 in your Amazon category. In the video training that came before this, I showed you how to choose a category where you can launch in #1. If you need to, go back to that where I talked about how to select a category on Amazon, how to choose a category that is competitive but not too competitive so you don't get lost. So keep that in mind and use that for reference for later, but we're going to hop a little bit around that sequence that I showed you before. Here's the first thing that you need to do, and this actually comes before your book is finished. This comes before your book is published and available for sale. This is something that you do first. The first thing you can do is to create a launch team. These are people who will support your book. These are fans who, as you're writing, as you're producing each chapter, you'll give it to them and they'll offer feedback and critique. They'll tell you what they liked, what they didn't like. When it's time to launch your book, these are the people who will write reviews for you. These are the people who will tell their friends about your book. This is something that has a tremendous impact on a book launching. I've done this before, and the difference between before I use a launch team and afterwards are tremendous. First of all, I get wonderful feedback from readers on the book. It changes the format as I'm writing. When I find out what works and what doesn't work, it makes the writing better and clearer, and the end product is much better. It also gives me a lot of good reviews at the beginning. And some people might hear this process of creating a launch team and giving parts of your book away to them for free and think, wait, am I losing sales here? Won't this hurt my odds overall? No, actually, here's why. This is something that major publishing houses always do. They always use beta readers or a small group of people who will read a book beforehand. But think of it this way. Let's say you're opening a new burrito shop, and the first day you give away 25 free burritos. Each of those people who got your burrito for free will tell all of their friends how great this burrito is. They'll tell their 10, 20, 30 friends. Well, if you multiply 25 by Let's lowball it and say 10. That's 250 people who heard about your awesome burritos. If you multiply it by 30, that's 750 people. So those initial free burritos, okay, you lost out on 25 sales, but there's 750 people who are hearing about how awesome your burritos are, and that's going to create massive business in the beginning. That is what a launch team does. So let me go over really generally how a launch team works. First, you put together a group of people on Facebook. You create a Facebook group for your book launch. How do you get people there? Here's how you do it. Put together a huge list of people that you know. Put together the emails of friends and family, 50, 100, 150 people, as many as you can think of, and send them a simple email saying, hey everybody, I'm launching this new book. If you're interested in joining a launch team, can you please sign up? And then you send them to a sign up form. I use a free service called Woofu, and I'll show you all of these things as a live case study in a second, so don't worry if this all doesn't make sense. And I'll also include a checklist at the end of this module where I'll have all the resources listed here. Tell them to sign up for a form on Woofu and just say their name, their email, and ask them why they would like to join. Then you'll send that to your friends. Maybe out of 150 people, 30 or 40 will respond back. You'll have all of their email addresses in one document. You can export that document and create a Google group. And the reason that's important is this is your email list and this is your form of correspondence and contact with your group. Then you'll email these people on your list and you'll send them to a private Facebook group. This private Facebook group is where you talk with people, where you say, hey everyone, here's my first chapter of the book, and you'll email them using your Google contact form. And after they receive the chapter, you'll talk to them on Facebook saying, hey guys, what did you think about the first chapter? Can you write about things that you liked and things that you didn't like? They'll do that. They'll write about things they liked and things they didn't like, and you'll start to get a sense of what clicks with your book and what doesn't click. I like to give them a chapter about once a week or so. You want to give them about 1 or 2 months to go through your book and read it. You don't want to rush people and say, okay, I need you to read my book in 3 days. You want to give them time to digest the material. Also, your book doesn't have to be finished by the time you start to give them the content. You could be finished with the first chapter and writing the second or third, and you can give them the first chapter. This also motivates you to keep writing because you know people might be waiting for you to hear the next chapter. So about once a week, you'll email them each chapter, and then you'll ask them, hey guys, what did you think about that? What did you like and what didn't you like? And you'll get their feedback. When you get all the way finished, when you are finished writing your book and you have their feedback, about a week before the book launches, you can take passages of the book that resonated most with people, and you can ask them to start tweeting out to their friends what are parts of the book that they liked. You can pull passages from the book, just maybe a one-sentence quote, and ask them to like that. Ask them to share that quote on Facebook and include the title of your book there, even though it isn't published yet on Amazon, so that people start to hear about the book. They are interested in it, and it starts to create a groundswell. Then, once the book is launched, and in the video training before this, I showed you how to launch a book, ask the people in your launch team to review the book on Amazon. They have to specify that they themselves received a review copy, and also ask them if they can buy a copy of the book. You might think, well, they already kind of read it. They read the review copies. But when people are involved in this process of launching your book, they feel close to you. They feel like they've been a part of something, and they want to see something they've been a part of succeed. They really feel like a team. Like it's not just something you're doing, but it's also something they're involved in. And they want to see your baby succeed, and they want to see it become a bestseller and do really well. So if you say to them, hey, could you also buy a copy? And you'll just make it 99 cents on Amazon, so it's no problem. But if you do that, you'll be surprised at the results that you see happen. Okay, so I threw a lot of things at you there. I want to give you an actual example of a launch team that I was helping to run for a book called Taming the Beast. It's about global corruption. And let me just show you how this process worked, how correspondence happened, how we set up a launch team, and everything else. I'm going to show you the emails that we sent out, the form builder we use to make it, and everything else so you know how this whole launch team process works. So let me step away from this PowerPoint and we're going to go right to the emails and the slides and everything else so you can see exactly how this took place. All right, so here's an example of an email you can send out to people. I just put this in Microsoft Word, but this is what you would email. Want a free copy of my book, Conquering the Global Scourge of Corruption? And again, try to send this to as many people as you possibly can, 50, 100, 150. Dear whoever, I am pleased to announce that I am releasing a book this year. It's called Conquering Global Corruption, or whatever your book is. The book is in its final stages and will be released this spring or whenever. It's a highly original book, and here you just talk about what your book is. It combines humor, imaginative narratives. This book answers questions that every social activist, anti-corruption campaigner, religious leader, businessman, and bureaucrat needs to know about conquering one of the great menaces of our time, the culture of corruption. But in order to launch this book, I need your help. I need the help of an intelligent, socially committed person like you who will give feedback on this book and spread the word once it launches. Would you like to join our street team? If so, you will receive a complimentary copy of the book and play a critical role in putting it together. To apply for the street team, please click here. Thank you. Together, we can conquer the beast. Okay, where does this link here go to? It goes to woofu.com. Woofu.com. Here, you're going to create a form where people can click on and apply to join your street team. Let me show the type of thing that you can create. Okay, so here's woofu.com. This is where you can create free forms. So all you do is click on sign up for free, and let me show you the type of form that you create. You'll be taken to a screen like this and click on something that says New Form. Let me show you the sections you need. You don't need many. This can be very simple. So all you need is name, then email, and one other thing. You just need one field where they can answer a question. Single line text. And here's what you write. Why do you want to join this team? Or why do you want to join our team? And you can title the form something like whatever the name of your book is. My book, Launch Team. Now you might be wondering, why are we creating this form? Well, there's two reasons. Number one, it helps collect email addresses for the people who want to join it, and that's crucial in our correspondence with them. The second reason is that we're already creating engagement. When it says, why do you want to join our team or join my team, it makes it seem a little bit more official, and it's kind of nice. It officializes what it is that you're doing. Okay, so you create this form, you click on Save Form, and then you click on Share this form, and this is a link you have. When you send out that email that I just showed you a second ago, this is the link that you put right here. Now you're going to take this email and you're going to send it to as many people as you possibly can within reason. Friends, family, acquaintances. If you can send it to hundreds of people, that is great. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to start to get responses here. Here's what you do when you start to get responses. So you can click on entries and see who signed up. So you have your list, you exported it, you have your email contacts, and you can keep track of them in different ways. You can set up a list in Gmail or whatever email provider you use. So now let's create a Facebook group. So now you're going to send an email to those people, welcoming them to the street team. And the email can look like this. Dear friend, thank you for showing your interest in joining the street team. I'm pleased to welcome you to the group. All you have to do to officially join is click on the link below to join our Facebook group. Make sure to click on the big green button that says Join Group. There we will have more in-depth discussions. Looking forward to talking with you there, Scott. How do you set up a Facebook group? Let me show you now. It's super easy, but the first time you do anything is wonky, so let me just show you. Here's all you do. So you're on Facebook. Come down here where on the left side of the screen, Groups, it says Create Group. Click on that. Group name, say Awesome Book Launch Team. You're not going to add people here because you'll send them that email and they'll sign up on their own. This is a closed group. It's for people who request to join, and that's how you do it. Please add one friend. This can be whoever you want. Just type in someone's name and click create, and that will do it. An icon. I like the book one here because it is a book group. Then personalize. Now you can do a couple of different things here. One thing you can do is choose a photo of your book cover. If you had your cover designed on Fiverr, and we saw in the previous training how to get your book cover designed, you can make that the personalized photo. Just choose that and add it there. So what you do to write it is you'll say something like, welcome everyone to the book street team. Please introduce yourself below. And okay, so I wrote that. Oh, that was a comment. I can write that same thing up here. So it's not a comment, but it's a proper post. And what I like to do with this introductory post is to pin it. Pinning it means that it's at the top of the page and people will always see it when they come on. So pin post, it will be at the top there. So when new people come on, they can introduce themselves, and it's a nice way to get going. Now, what do you do as you're going through the launch with this group? Here's a few things that you can do. First of all, about once a week, you're going to email them a new chapter of the book. Maybe it's a PDF, and you're not going to send it by the Facebook group. You're going to email it because you can miss things on Facebook. People are not always on Facebook. They can miss things, but people are typically checking their email on a regular basis. So email it out once a week, and then every week, make a new post saying, hey everyone, what did you think about this new chapter? Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, and then you'll start to see messages come in, and you can talk with people, you can get feedback, and it's really great. Then you can pull quotes from the book that a lot of people liked. You could make a new post where you have a quote from the book and ask people to like this so their friends see it, ask them to mention the book, and there'll start to be a buzz and a groundswell that starts to grow. When your book is finally published, and I showed you in the previous training how to publish your book, then you ask people to review the book and to share a link to the book on Facebook so that a lot of people see it. There's a few other things I want to do to tell you how to launch a book successfully. You have your street team. They wrote reviews. They said how good the book was. There are a couple of other things that you need to do to get your numbers growing. Beyond the street team, there's two other groups that you can use to promote your book. The first are friends and family who didn't join your street team but still would like to see the finished book and download it or promote it or leave a review. The second group of people are those that like free or discounted books that can find yours on paid email lists. And I'm going to show you how to use both of them. The first thing you can do, here's my handsome little mind map. On the bottom here from session 1, you can run a free promotion. Kindle lets you run a free promotion every 90 days. If you are a member of KDP Select, which I told you to sign up for in the previous training, every 90 days, there are two things you can do. The first is to give away your book for free. You might think, why would I do that? Because it lets your book have a lot of exposure that it wouldn't otherwise get. And it doesn't cost you anything because it's an ebook. I recommend using this especially if you are a first-time author because it's one of the fastest, best ways to get exposure. In the past, the Amazon algorithm would count free downloads as a fraction of a sale, so having a big fat free book promo giveaway could rocket your book to the top of lists. It doesn't really work that way anymore, so free giveaways are more about exposure than manipulating the Amazon bestseller list. But we can use this in important ways. First, let me show you how to set up a free giveaway on Amazon. Then let me show you how to use it. And I want to be clear here, don't do this a lot because we don't want to cannibalize our sales, but use this smartly and it could do amazing things for your book sales. Here we are back at KDP Select, kdp.amazon.com. I'm signing in at this moment. All right, so let's take any one of my books. Here's my nice little book about Iowa called How Iowa Conquered the World. I'm going to click on Promote and Advertise here. This is where I can run a free giveaway. There are two things I can do: Kindle Countdown Deal and free book promotion. I'll explain Countdown Deal in a second, but let's click on Create a Free Book Promotion. So start date, whatever you want. It could be anytime in the future. You can go from 1 to 5 days. I would just do 2 days because that's honestly about all we need. So any point in the future, whenever you want, you choose a start day and then an end day. Let's do 7th, so 2 days, whatever. And then you click Save Changes, and that will create a free promotion. There you go. Please wait while we save your promotion, and there it is. Now, I should mention that there are 2 different types of promotions you can run. One is the free book, which we just set up, and you can see it down there at the bottom. It's scheduled. The other one is a countdown deal. A countdown deal is this. Let's say your book is $2.99. It means that for 2 or 5 days, whatever, your book can be discounted to, let's say, 99 cents. It will be on special lists. It will be promoted like the free book is. And it's not free, but it is discounted, and you can get a lot of sales that way also. Now, you can only do a free book or a countdown deal. A countdown deal will make it much cheaper, but not free. So let me talk about how to use a free book promotion first, and then I'll talk about how to use a countdown deal, and you can decide what you want to do. Okay, so here's what you should do. When you have set up your days that it's free, go over to Facebook and make a post like this. This is an actual one I wrote. This one was for a book that was 99 cents, but you can do the exact same thing for free, and I'll show you how to do it. I said, "Hi everyone, my new book is launched, Off the Edge of the Map, Marco Polo, Captain Cook, and 9 other travelers and explorers that push the boundaries of the known world. It's only 99 cents, and you can download it here." Here was the Amazon link. Here is the UK version. I have friends in the UK, and the UK is the second most popular Amazon store, so I just like to include the link to the UK. It's basically the same as Amazon.co, except instead of Amazon.com, it's Amazon.uk, and this number back here is exactly the same. Not everyone has a Kindle, so if I have friends and family who want to support me but don't have one, I'll say, if you don't have a Kindle, you can read it on your PC by downloading the Kindle Reading app here. To find that, just Google Kindle Reading app for PC, and you'll find a link on where you can download that. And I like to include that link for people there. So if your book is free, tell them it's free. And also in this post right here, after you put this up, a bunch of people will like it and then share it, and they'll say they got it. After a day or two, go into the comment section and say, "Hey everyone, thanks for downloading my book. If you can leave a review, a short review, 20 or 30 words, that's a big help. Thank you." And this is how you can get a lot of reviews for your book from friends and family, and it's a great way to promote it. Okay, so that's how you can use free book promotions to grow your list. But there's a second thing you can do in place of this that I think is very powerful in different ways, and let me show you what that is. A little bit ago, I mentioned Kindle Countdown deals. Let's cancel our free book promotion, and let me show you what a Kindle Countdown deal is and how you can use it to rocket your book to #1 on bestseller lists. Okay, so let's set up a countdown deal. Again, every 90 days, I think you have 5 or 7 days you can set this up. So we'll start here, and we'll end it on this day. So down here, number of price increments, the starting price I'll say is 99. And if I wanted 2 increments, it would start at 99 and then go to 199. What this means is that I'll show you how this plays out practically. For half of the countdown deal time, the book is reduced by 67% to 99 cents. Then, 80 hours later, the book jumps up to 199 and is only 34% off. I like mine to be just 99 cents the whole time. And this will put the book on special lists on Amazon. It will give it more exposure. It will give it more publicity. And I told you before that if a book is 99 cents, typically you only get 35% royalty. On a countdown deal, you get 70% royalty. So instead of 35 cents, you get 70 cents. Well, that's nice. But here is the real power of a countdown deal. Let me show you. You want to do two things with this. First of all, you do the same thing. You put up a Facebook post like this. This post is actually for a countdown deal. You're asking friends or family to buy your book for 99 cents instead of just get it for free. The advantage of a free is that, of course, a lot more people will get it. A lot more people will leave reviews. And if you're looking for early reviews, this is a great way to get them. Here's where a countdown deal is helpful. If you do this, then if people get your book for free, Amazon does not count that as a sale, and your book does not go to the top of any bestseller lists. If they get it on a countdown deal, it does count as a sale, and your book does go up the lists. So by running a countdown deal, by telling your friends and family and your launch team that it's available, you're going to get a lot of people to purchase it, and you're going to be on the front page of Amazon. But there's something else that you can do that will almost guarantee your book will rocket to the top of a front list. And here's what you do. You use paid email lists for launch. What these are massive email lists that go out to 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 people. And it announces to them, hi everyone, these are books that are discounted to 99 cents today. People will see your book and they will buy it. And these books have different costs. Sometimes they're $10, sometimes they're $25, sometimes they're $99. And there's a lot of different services out there. But the point being that if you pay to have your book on this list, it will get a ton of exposure. And in terms of bang for your buck, this is probably the most effective thing I have ever seen to get your book out there, to get your book on the top of a list, to see it rocket to number one. It's very inexpensive. It gives your book exposure, and this creates a virtual cycle where your book is at the top of the list. It's number one in its category. More people see your book because they're searching, and they'll typically buy a book from the front page of Amazon. Your book has good reviews because your friends, family, and street team left good reviews. More people will buy your book, and because more people will buy your book, it will stay at the top of the list. Now, this doesn't mean it'll stay there forever, but what it means is your book is sticky in the Amazon list. It stays up there, and because more people see it, more people buy it, and we kick off this virtuous circle. So here are three different paid lists that I like. Fussy Librarian, for a history book, which is what I write, it's about $10 to get your book listed. Bargain Booksy, I think, is about $25, and Kindle Nation Daily is $99. It costs more on Kindle Nation Daily, and you have to schedule way out in advance, like a month, but it is worth it. Wow, you get a lot of exposure if you go on Kindle Nation Daily. But all three of these I would recommend. Here is another website that includes other sites where you can promote your book. E-News Today, BookSense, Robin Reads, Book Kitty, eReader Cafe, Free Kindle Books and Tips, and eBook Soda. I can't recommend all of these. I haven't used all of these. Some of these are only for free books. So if you're running a free book promotion, you can get a bunch of downloads and a bunch of exposure that way. So I can't personally vouch for these, but these are other services to look at. Now, you could use all of these services at the same time if you want to really launch with a bang, but that could end up costing a lot of money. And I just want to show you the simple things to start off with. And I like these services: Kindle Nation Daily, the Fussy Librarian, and Bargain Booksy. Let me just show you really quickly what it would look like if you were to set up a promotion on, let's say, Bargain Booksy. Here we are on the front page, and you click over for authors. Other websites are like this. There's email signed up for readers, and you'll find a link that will say something like for authors. Kindle Nation Daily and Fussy Librarian are the same. Next, you come down here and you look for your genre. Yours, if you're an academic like myself, will probably be something like general nonfiction. As you can see, mystery and romance cost more, but that's because those books sell more. So if you really want to make a lot of money as a self-published author, get into romance, but that's not my purview. If that's yours, hey, go for it. But let's just go with this. Okay, so general nonfiction. This goes out to 77,000 people. That's good exposure. Now you're going to select a date. Now there are some eligibility things. It says your book must be between 99 cents and $5. We limit authors to one feature book per month. We do not have a minimum review requirement. However, every book goes through an editorial review process. This means that if your book has no reviews, some of these lists might not accept it because they don't want bad books out there. That's why we had a street team. That's why you contacted friends and family to get reviews for your book. So the fact that it has some good reviews means that these lists will be likely to accept it. Also, this says we do not accept free books on Bargain Booksy. Some of these lists will require that your book cannot have been free within the last 30 days or 60 days. So check those things out before you decide to run a free book promotion on Amazon. Also, if you run a free book promotion, then you can't run a countdown deal in the same 90-day window. Think these things out before you decide which one to do. Free books and countdown deals have different advantages. Personally, I think that it goes like this. Free books will get you a lot more reviews out the gate, but if you have a good street team, then you won't really need them. In terms of getting your book to the top of a list, a countdown deal is the best way to do it. And a countdown deal coupled with putting a email promotion on top of it really gets things going. So let's select a date. Okay, so March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, it's sold out. I forget the dates we selected for our countdown deal. Let me come over here. Okay, what was it? Okay, March 4th through March 11th. Well, March 4th is sold out, but we can buy March 5th. Okay, so that's a date that works. Let's select our date there, March 5th. And then you're just going to fill this out. You're going to find the link to your book on Amazon after you published it, and I showed you how to do that in the previous video. Your author name, your book title, your promotion. Mine's going to be 99 cents. Is this a countdown deal? Yes. Where else will your book be? None of these places because it is not for sale there per Amazon's terms of service. Please describe your book. Here you're just giving 1 or 2 sentences. This book is about the most insane leaders in history from Caligula to Ivan the Terrible. This book tells the fascinating stories of travelers and explorers across history. This book is a fun read for any history lover, whatever. Contact information, this won't appear on the list. You can write whatever you want to. Promo code, I don't have that there. I click off of that and then I click submit. And then once you click submit, it will take you to a checkout page where you will pay by, I think, PayPal or credit card. So that's how it works. It's really the same process for Kindle Nation Daily or Fussy Librarian. Sometimes the next available date will be a few weeks out into the future, so check on that. But if you follow one of these things, this is one of the best ways to guarantee that your book will sell a lot of copies in the beginning. And this is a really important step because if your book sells a lot of copies in the beginning, then you can do other things like find a person to narrate your book for you. Then you can find someone to translate your book for you. So this step is a really important one to kick off things that come along later. Okay, so that's what I want to mention here, using paid email lists in order to kick out your best seller going forward. I've included a few resources for this session. I mentioned earlier that I would include texts of the email that I showed you earlier, and I have that here. I have PDFs that you can use. They include a sample email for a prospective street team member. I also include a sample email for street team members to direct them to the Facebook group and other resources. Finally, I have a PDF of a list of the best ebook promotion sites. So as you're looking into promoting your book, this will get you started so you can start to do some price shopping and comparison shopping. Any one of the ones I listed will work for you, and decide if you want to use them and how you want to use them. But if you do a countdown deal and couple it with a good book promotion, this will get you going, and this will help get your book up at the top of lists. So this is the thing that will really get the whole chain reaction started. Well, that's all I have for now, so I'll be happy to take any questions that you have. Please ask anything you want, and also, if there's something that I didn't cover that you would want me to focus on in greater detail, I take your questions and recommendations very seriously. And a lot of the content of this course actually comes out of your recommendations. I mean, I shoot whole videos. I add extra training. If there's something that you think that I missed that you're confused about or you think is critical to move forward, my goal is to give you exactly what you need so you know everything you need to know to go forward. I want everyone to walk away from here feeling satisfied that they know what they think that they need to know. So whatever you want me to cover on, If I can't explain it here in a way that makes sense, I'll shoot another video and I'll add it as a bonus resource section on our website, whatever it takes. So please fire away, ask your questions in the box on the side. And if there's something that I can't get to here sufficiently, then I'll add extra training for you and make sure that everything makes sense.